Sorry viewers, I was just doing my typical Wednesday afternoon activity, enjoying the wonderful standard and drinking an ice cold Durst soda, which is something everyone probably should do. But we'll get right back to this newest episode of Sports Central with Warwick County football. Last week we discussed how tough of a week it was going to be for the three Warwick County teams, and only one of those teams came away with a victory. The Castle Knights went into the Wrights Bowl and stomped Wrights 33-13. It was the first win at Wrights Bowl for the Castle Knights in 10 years. That's a pretty long time, so congrats there for the Knights. Wrights was ahead of Castle 13-6 at halftime before the Castle offense got rolling. Mitch Gillis, Castle's starting quarterback, was playing his first game of the year after serving a 2-game suspension. And he looked a little rusty in the first half, but came out in the third quarter, threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for 1 more to really put that game away. Castle's defense held it out and shut down the Panthers in the second half to clinch the 33-13 win. Coming up for the Knights on Friday, they face another SIAC team, the Bosse Bulldogs, at home. Bosse is 0-3, although they beat Washington in week 2 this season. They had to forfeit that game. I'm not sure why, but usually that's for having an ineligible player. So technically the Bulldogs are 0-3, and they travel to Paradise to face the Knights at 7 o'clock on Friday. And the most important thing about that football game is it is Castle's give-back game. This is the second year in a row they've had a give-back game. Last year they donated a bunch of money to the American Cancer Society for breast cancer. And this year their give-back game, they're raising money for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation to help combat juvenile diabetes. So great cause there for the Castle Knights. The Tecumseh Braves had a tough matchup on Friday, traveling up to Farmersburg to face North Central. And unfortunately for the Braves, they had another just agonizing loss. They lost to the Thunderbirds 29-15, except the Braves did lead at halftime 15-14. That would have been a pretty big upset. North Central's ranked 5th in 1A. But they could not hold on to that lead and ended up losing, as I said, 29-15. And the Thunderbirds did most of their damage on the ground. Of their 531 total yards, 496 came via the run. Chase Van Schock ran for 269 yards on 27 carries, and he had 1 touchdown. And Dylan Bailey had 20 carries, 171 yards, and 3 touchdowns for North Central in leading them to that win. Tecumseh's finally home on Friday. They've been on the road for 3 straight games to open the season. They were at North Davies, at Wood Memorial, and then, as I said, at North Central. But they're finally home. They welcome Union Duggar to the friendly confines of Braves Field at Linville Elementary School. Duggar is 2-1. After losing their first game of the year, they picked up 2 wins. And lastly, the Boonville Pioneers had the toughest Friday of all 3 teams. Jasper steamrolled the Pioneers 49-0. Nothing went right for Boonville from the very opening kick. Jasper outgained Boonville 419-164. And Cole Sermersheim for the Wildcats did most of the damage. He had 127 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns running, but he also added a touchdown catch. Jasper's quarterback, Nolan Aarons, was 11 for 16 for 157 yards and 3 touchdowns. And on the other side, Boonville quarterback Evan Hendrickson had a tough night. Was just 5 for 15 for 50 yards, and he had an interception. Pretty much the lone bright spot for Boonville was fullback Andrew Arriago. He had 92 yards on 14 carries, but not much went right for Boonville. And hopefully they can turn it around on Friday. They're at home again, their second home game of the year. And they're facing Gibson Southern, who's 2-1 on the year. They had 2 big wins over South Spencer and Forest Park before losing to North Posey last week. That's always a big game. It's a rival. the Titans are, and it's a Big 8 game, so should be pretty exciting. And in other sports action, last night the Boonville Pioneers defeated Tecumseh in volleyball. It took 4 games. Boonville won 25-23, lost 14-25, and then won 29-27, 25-15 to pick up the win. The Pioneers had to come back in games 1 and games 3. In game 1, Tecumseh was up 20-15 before the Pioneers rallied to pick up that 25-23 win. And in game 2, Tecumseh was 1 point away from win, 24-21. But Boonville rallied to tie at 24 and went on to win 29-27. Pretty exciting. 4 pretty close matches, 4 pretty close games, I should say. Before Boonville finally put them away, 25-15. And that keeps Boonville's record at home perfect. They've won every game at home, always had a raucous crowd. Pretty exciting times at the auxiliary gym at Boonville High School. And they're back in action at home again on Thursday. The Pioneers host Mount Vernon. And Tecumseh is also at home on Thursday. They face Heritage Hills. So that wraps up this episode of Sports Central. Thank you for tuning in this week, and as always, make sure you check it out next Wednesday afternoon.